We're out here in the desert today. I'm going to tell you about another treasure story that old John told me that I mentioned in my book, Random Tangents. And this story took place probably in the 1850s, I would say. And it's kind of a treasure puzzle, actually. What happened, these four outlaws went and they robbed an army payroll wagon. And then he headed north to cross the Colorado River. And prior to crossing, they buried the $30,000 of gold coin next to an old mesquite tree because they knew they'd come back and get it later. They were just interested in the hurry up getting out of there. Well, as they come to the Colorado River, they swam their horses across the river at a point downstream of a bend in the river, which turned north to the Arizona side. And the reason they crossed the river is because supposedly the rock mountains were real close to the river and it's having a hard time getting along the edge, so they went to the other side. And when they went to the other side, they found a cave back in the mountains there a little bit, and they figured they'd just camp out there for the night. And one of the four outlaws went down to the sandbar next to the bank there and dug a hole in the middle of it. And that way it allowed water to seep in and clear up the water so they could get fresh water there. Well, when he was digging this hole out in the sand and gravel, he started noticing what he looked like small pieces of gold nuggets. So he called his other friends down there and they started going through it, and by golly, it was gold nuggets. So they started searching where it came from because it was right next to this outcropping next to the river. Well, they found a quartz vein and they started pecking on it and chiseling a little bit, and they seen there was gold in it. Well, they started mining it out. At this time, they knew of a Indian encampment up on Yuma Wash, okay? And they were letting the Indians take care of the horses while they were mining. Well, one day after they was mining, they were pulling nuggets out and whatever. Well, one of the outlaws decided he'd go up to the Indian encampment, and when he did, he started chasing the squaw, actually, and her brave confronted him about this, and the outlaw shot him. So he hurried up and grabbed their horses and headed back to camp and told them that he'd shot this brave, and they were afraid that the Indians would head down to Fort Yuma and bring the cavalry up there, and they didn't want to deal with that. So they gathered all the gold on the horses, went up to the top of the hill, and buried the gold. Now this hole where they buried it was supposedly in a saddle between two peaks. John and a few of his friends went looking for it. He said he flew up and down the river in this area, and he figured that where the Colorado River really turned north was down around what was called Nortons Landing. I started doing some research on this, and I went back to an old map they had printed back in 1865, and it shows Yuma down here, and it's got some of the landings. You know, it's got Eureka, it's got Williamstown, which is right upstream from it. Well, Fort Yuma was on the California side, and on the other side was Arizona City, they called it, and Colorado City, and it ended up becoming Yuma years later. On this map, it shows a surveying line of the Southern Pacific Railroad. They haven't put the railroad in there yet. There's a lot of history here, and I'm trying to put a timeline on when those outlaws might have been here. So late 1850s, early 1860s, steamboats started coming up from the Gulf of California, working their way up the Colorado River. If Fort Yuma was around 1854 forward, and then the railroad actually come in around 1878 and finally got to Yuma. And once they did that, they quit the river boats coming up the river. They started bringing supplies from here on up. And actually, the steamboats they used on the river went all the way past what we know as Las Vegas today up to the Virgin River. It actually was 440 miles. They were bringing supplies up this river to different mining camps and settlements along the way. So we're looking at that area, so that we know that probably the outlaws had to be in here probably between 1854 and I would say 1861 or 62 when people started coming into the area and do some mining. Let me take this map down. I'll show you a little bit more of the river and where we're looking. Old John had told me this story. He said he flew a plane up the river here and he saw this big bend in the river coming back toward the Arizona side. So he thought the gold nuggets were in this one outcropping here along the river because it jutted out into the river. So he kind of always been the story to way his thought process ran. Thinking about it logically, there wasn't really any gold in here. This Nortons Landing was actually from the Red Cloud mine up here, was bringing ore down and they shipping it out at the Nortons Landing. So you go on downstream, you have Picacho and the Picacho mill ruins right here. We're going to break away right now, and I'm going to take you on a little trip, and we're going to go this road. It's about 20 miles north of Winter Haven, and it's about 18 miles of gravel and sand to get back here. And prior to getting right out to the state park, we're going to take a little side road here, okay? And it goes around and gets us back to the ruins, and we're going to show you those ruins. Then we'll come around, we'll show you the little state campground here. They got a boat launch and everything, but I wouldn't pull a boat back there. It's pretty rough road, okay? So let's go have a look at that right now. Taking that path off to the right of the main path, coming out here to get us to these ruins. At one time, there used to be a town down here of about 2,000 people. There were 700 miners employed in this area at that time, because there were mines within 5 to 8 miles of here, bringing all the ore down here to be crushed and processed. And they had a landing down here on the river where the river boats went up and down. And you can see in the background, you can see the Colorado River flowing now. But since they built the dam downstream, it's raised this whole area up, so the town and everything that used to be, the ruins are all underwater. Production was estimated around $13 million in gold and silver out of this area. And this is the upper mill, which was completed in 1886. And I said it ran up to about 1902 at the peak. It was a 15 stamp mill here at one time, and you can see the ruins here. They're still in pretty good shape for being over 100 years old, because they started this back in around 1879. They ran it for about 20 years or 30, and processed their gold down here through the stamp mill right next to the river. This brick on the ground here, and in the background are fire brick, and they use those to line the furnaces where they smelted the ore down. So there's still some of it up here, and it's really interesting just to look at this area and see all the stuff that still remains up here pointing to what they were doing. Well, they use these for assaying their ore. They're bringing down these small crucibles like this. They put them in their furnace and figure out how many ounces per ton the ore was running, like in gold and silver. So these are crucibles, and they're all over this area here. So this is probably where they had a little assay shack, and this is located right along the path here, actually. We just arrived down here at Picacho, the boat ramp, and part of the park facilities here. And there's a campground over to my right over this way. It's a really nice area. You see the river's flowing pretty nice today. But to bring a boat back 18 miles of gravel and sand road, I wouldn't recommend it. You can always launch downstream at possibly Fisher's Landing or Martinez Lake and come up here. It's about probably about 8 miles upstream. But anyway, you can pull your boat in here. You can have a little barbecue or whatever else. So it's a pretty nice place to go. The next thing I want to show you is Yuma Wash. This is where the Indian encampment was, okay? We're going to drive up here. It's out of Fisher's Landing, Martinez Lake. After getting back here, you can follow the Red Cloud Mine Road all the way back up to the Red Cloud Mine, but you can take this little side road here. It's mostly just sand through some brush getting up here to Clear Lake. And we'll show you that, and we'll show you the shot of Yuma Wash. Okay, we're down in Yuma Wash now. We're going to make a left-hand turn here on this gravel to get us back towards the river and Clear Lake. Right behind me, you can see we just drove in from Red Cloud Mine Road, going on our way to Clear Lake, which is over to my right. But we climbed up on the peak here, and if you look over, this is Yuma Wash. And as you can see, they had a fire up here a couple of months ago and really burned off a large amount of it. And right now, since the river's been raised since they built the dams, it's kind of flooded this area and raised it up a little bit. And you can see a little canal going out to the river here. But this is Yuma Wash, is where the Indian encampment was that the outlaws left their horses here for them to take care of. Our next little journey here is going to take us up the river, and we're going to launch out of Fisher's Landing here, which was next to the old Castle Dome Landing and Castle Dome City, which had probably 2,000 to 3,000 people at one time. It had a post office and everything. It had a landing out here in the river. And we'll bypass right here. This is Yuma Wash. We'll go unpack Yuma Wash and we'll take you all the way up to Nortons Landing. And we'll have a look from there. Hopefully upstream I'll show you this bend in the river. And a little bit of this area. We'll motor down, and from the water we'll just show you a little bit of Picacho. Then we'll come on down and we'll actually come in here, and there's an old miner's cabin in there. And we'll show you that and some of the mines, the Eureka Mining District, some of the mines up here. After that, we'll go ahead and go across, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. So it gives you a view up and down the river here. To my way of thinking, that the outlaws are probably more in this area doing their mining because they're only 2 miles away from the Indian encampment where they'd have their horses. This is about 6 miles away. So to leave your horses that far away, it didn't quite make sense. And secondly, there was gold in here. They pulled gold out of Picacho. They pulled some gold out of here. They call this the Silver District and the Eureka Mining District. And they pulled about 2,000 ounces of gold out of here. And most of it was placer gold, which means it was in a stream bed. I think it was around 1,300 ounces. They did mining over here for about a year, and they didn't find enough ore and minerals to make it worthwhile. So they gave up on that. And this was like in 1877, 78 for that 1 year there. And Eureka started earlier than that. Okay, we're going to show you that and give you an idea of what to look for, okay? But it's good hiking to go back to these old mines, seeing some of the history of the area. And also, when you do hike back and look at the mines, be careful. Some of them are deep and you could fall and slip in and nobody would find you. So anyway, be careful going back into these areas, okay? See, we're hitting a lot of sandbars out here. We have to take our time to kind of work our way up the river here because you never know where the sand's going to settle out at and where you're going to hit a shallow spot. I think we're stuck on the sand. We made it up to Nortons Landing. You can see there's some ruins here from the original landing where they had works up here probably processing ore. But if you look behind me, this is the Colorado River, and it turns sharp to the north back to the Arizona side, which the old man said was part of the story. And he believed that this area, this mound over here, was where the outlaws are actually mining an ore vein. But studying a little bit of history, this was just kind of a processing plant for the Red Cloud mine, which was miles back that way, and it was silver. So I don't think there was any gold in this area, and I think John, who told me the story, was mistaken because he's 6 miles from here down to Yuma Wash, and it's an awful long ways for the outlaws to leave the horses. So I kind of doubt this This is where it's at, even though they've dug all over this place looking for it, they never found anything. We're going back into the Eureka Mining District, and we have to kind of duck through this hole in the reeds to get there. And we'll go see the miners' cabin first before we head back into the mining district. Okay, here we go. Hiked over here to what they call the Watchman's Cabin. You can see it's stacked rocks, been there for probably a number of years. And you can go and have a look around it. They got a lot of old machinery and stuff laying around, and you can go inside and you can sign a register book just saying you've been here. So it's kind of a neat little deal. From here we're going on farther back into the Eureka Mining District back in here and show you a few of the mines. See the steel grating over this mine entrance? Just keep humans out unless the bats go in and out. They're very protective of the bats, so they don't want you going back in the caves here. And once they have grates over, they know there's a lot of bats in them. So just be aware of this, know about it, and don't go back in there. Since they raised that dam, put it up 85 feet, it's flooded this whole area around here. So a lot of stuff is underwater down here now and in the weeds. But you still pick up a few parts down here and there where they used to mill the ore, and probably where they had their assay building at. Now we're on the other side of the river at the Golden Dream mine and the mill site. Right now we're standing on the mill site here. It's carved out of rock down here, and it's got a fill where the base of the mill was. They only mined this area for about a year, and what I read was like 106 miners were in here working, but at the end of the year, they didn't have enough rich ore to make it work, so they quit. So they only mined here for about a year, but they did a lot of work. There's always gravity feed when they did these, so you have like a crusher up top, and it goes on down to ball mill, and as the gravity feeds down, it gets finer and finer, and it finally gets down to the fines and trying to find the gold. Okay, if you notice the concrete they made here was all made out of a white quartz. They probably thought that was a lot stronger, and they made a little concrete pad there. And what I want to show you over here is they built up a rock wall around this pad. But original, there was one rock wall right here. Maybe it wasn't big enough, so they end up building another rock wall on the outside perimeter to move it out. It's really something that they took that much time and effort to build this thing, not a stacked rock. They even stacked rock across the wash here to support a roadbed and went on up the canyon. And over the years it's washed out, but you can see they took a lot of time and effort to build this road in here, thinking they were going to have a good strike back here. So we're going to go up the ravine here a little bit, and I'll show you a couple of mines. This is one of the shafts up here, goes probably back 50 feet. On the left is some timbers kind of holding that area up. I don't go any farther back because there might be bats back in there. You don't want to bother them, okay? Let's stay out of there. And besides that, it could be dangerous. You know, you never know what's going to cave in on you. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you the opening of this one. There's supposedly a 50-footer and a 30-footer dug up here somewhere, but we're going up above. We're going to show you a seam they dug out for quite a long ways trying to find an enrichment zone. I wanted to show you this cut that runs probably for 200 feet through here. They're going after a vein structure, and they kept opening up all along here. They went down on it, and I don't think they ever found anything that really paid enough, and they finally gave up. It's pretty interesting just to watch the cuts they made, the work they put into it, and the geology of the place. Go back out to Highway 95 and up 95 for from where the turnoff is to Fisher's Landing, Martinez Lake. We go up about 9 miles, we'll turn off here off Highway 95, and we'll go out to the Castle Dome Mining District. Now this is 10 miles from here to here, and out there is a little museum they've built. They've brought a lot of buildings in there, and some original buildings that were there, and they've drug in a bunch more. They have a lot to see there. They have all kinds of old mining equipment, antiques. It's worth a little drive out here. It's 10 miles out if you're in the area. It's something to see. After seeing the small mining museum out there, if you want to do something around Yuma, they have some really good places to eat in downtown, old historic part of town, Yuma. And several restaurants down there very good. They got a little brew pub. So I would head down there, you know, if you want some really good eats. And after that, you know, it's a lot of four-wheeling around this area. You find some good hiking trails. So enjoy yourself if you come down. And if you get a chance, you might look at my book, Random Tangents, Embracing Adventures in Life. It's a book that I've written, and I have some treasure stories in it. Thank you.